So, what happens when the greatest magical empire in history, a civilization literally built on fire and blood, just vanishes? In a single day. We're not talking about a slow decline or a fall from grace. We're talking about a complete and total erasure from the map. That's the story of the Valyrian Freehold and its absolutely catastrophic end. And that's the big question, isn't it? It's the central mystery that has haunted this world for centuries. How could a power that seemed eternal, that commanded dragons and wielded sorcery we can barely even imagine, be wiped out in a matter of hours? It's a story of power, of arrogance, and a cataclysm of truly epic proportions. So, to figure out how it all came crashing down, we first have to understand the incredible heights from which it fell. To really grasp the doom, we have to understand what was lost. We need to see Valyria not as some ancient ruin, but as it was in its final moments, at the absolute, dizzying apex of its power and glory. You know, this quote from our source material just nails the vibe of the Valyrian elite perfectly. It wasn't just confidence, it was a kind of serene arrogance that comes from 5,000 years of total dominance. They really saw themselves as something more than mortal. And honestly, can you blame them? They had every reason to believe it. And that godlike attitude was built on pillars that seemed totally unbreakable. You had the 40 families, the Dragon Lords, right at the top. Their power was fueled by sorcery and blood magic the world had never seen before and hasn't seen since. Their palaces, well, they weren't even built. They were fused into existence from solid rock with dragon fire. And watching over it all from the skies above? Their dragons, the ultimate weapons of war, a constant, terrifying symbol of their might. For centuries, that power seemed absolute, but on the final day of the Freehold, a tiny crack appeared in that perfect, eternal facade. A warning that went completely, utterly unheeded. Just try to imagine the scene, right? The most powerful people in the entire world are all gathered, probably arguing over some petty nonsense about slaves or spells, and then a tremor hits. But it's so minor, so insignificant that they probably just laughed it off. It's just the ultimate dramatic irony. Their world is literally about to end, and they are so blinded by their own power they can't even see it coming. That dismissal was their last moment of peace. The escalation from there was terrifyingly fast. That slight tremor, it became a deep growl, a sound rising up from the very roots of the world. Then, that growl turned into a roar, as the earth itself seemed to rebel. And then, the 14 flames, the whole volcanic chain that was the source of all their power, awoke as one. This is it. This is the moment the world breaks, the instant where the immense power that Valyria had tamed for millennia finally turned on its masters with a fury you just can't comprehend. Okay, just try to wrap your head around this number for a second. 500 miles of land. The entire heart of an empire cracked open like an egg. This wasn't just an earthquake or a volcano. This was a geological event on a scale that basically defies imagination. The planet itself ripped apart. What followed was a cascade of total, utter annihilation. It wasn't one thing, it was a horrifying chain reaction. Hills just exploded into geysers of fire. The ash was so thick it blotted out the sun, turning day into an endless, choking night. Think about this. Even the dragons, the apex predators of this world, were swallowed whole by a fire greater than their own. Those unbreakable, fused stone palaces, they shattered like glass and tumbled into fiery chasms. The very water boiled into acid, and then finally the sea itself rushed in to claim the burning ruins. And in just a matter of hours, it was all over. The world's center of gravity, its greatest power, had been completely and utterly erased. What was left was a void, and a permanent scar on the face of the planet. The transformation you see here is just absolute. What was once the shining capital of the Valyrian Freehold is now known only as the Smoking Sea. The hub of all magic and power becomes a haunted, poisoned wasteland where the water still hisses and boils, and people say strange demonic lights flicker beneath the waves. It's not just a ruin, it's a permanent wound on the world. And the cost? I mean, it's just incalculable. It wasn't just the millions of lives, lords and slaves alike, or the countless dragons that were incinerated. No, the greater loss, the thing that changed the world forever, was the knowledge. Thousands of years of magical lore, the secrets to forging Valyrian steel and fusing stone with fire, all of it gone in an instant. It's why those Valyrian steel swords are priceless artifacts. The knowledge of how to make them literally died with the freehold. The power vacuum it left behind plunged the world into the century of blood, 100 years of chaos and war that set the stage for the entire world as we know it. And so, you see, the Doom of Valyria isn't just some historical event. Even 400 years later, it's a ghost story, a cautionary tale whispered across the entire known world. And its mystery is as profound as its destruction. So what actually caused it? What was the trigger? Was it the sheer hubris of the Dragon Lords finally provoking the gods to act? Was it some magical ritual gone horribly wrong? An attempt to delve too deep into the Earth's fire? Or was it simply a natural disaster of a scale we've just never seen? The truth is, we don't know. The place is so dangerous, so poisoned, that as our source material says, none dare sail close enough to learn it. And that's where the story leaves us, with this incredibly powerful, haunting image. The memory of an empire so mighty it truly believed itself immortal, reduced to nothing more than a ghost story, an echo of a dragon's final scream. It's a brutal reminder that all fire, no matter how bright it burns, eventually goes out. And it leaves us all with one final question to think about. What happens when the very source of a civilization's power becomes the instrument of its own destruction?